Welcome back to Small Caps. My name's Kerry Stevenson and bringing you an exciting story today from the Victorian goldfields. Guys, this company's in the Golden Triangle. So sit up, take some notice, and please welcome Ian Holland. He's the Managing Director of Navarre Minerals. And my goodness me, have they got news coming out everywhere at the moment. Ian, it is great to see you.
Great to see you as well, Kerry. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Really exciting stuff at the moment. So really want to talk about that.
You guys are on fire. There is so much going on, and you're not inside the ring of steel down there in Victoria. You're getting on with stuff. You've got bringing together a fantastic team. So for those that don't know Navarre Minerals, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the ASX code is NML. Check it out. NML is the share code, ASX code. Now, Ian, let's start with a big picture overview of who are Navarre Minerals, and then, excuse the pun, we'll drill down into some of the details. So let's go for the overview to begin with.
Yeah, for sure, Kerry. So Navarre Minerals, NML, are a Victorian-focused explorer. We've been actually listed for almost 10 years, and the founding managing director, Jeff McDermott, has done a wonderful job really pulling together a high-quality portfolio across a number of different areas within central and western Victoria. Really early mover advantage. So there's a number of key projects in the Stawell region, in St Arnaud, north of Bendigo, brought this portfolio together and has been advancing it at a time when Victoria wasn't a hot exploration destination. So he's done some really hard yards, him and the team. And now we're starting to really see, bear the fruit of some of that. So we've been able to, significantly increase our team. So brought some really high quality people on board. Our balance sheet. So we've got a significant amount of funding to be able to do what we want to do, and now we're deploying more rigs. So that news flow is really happening. So it's pretty exciting stuff for us.
Well, who would have thought? And you're right. Jeff started this 10 years ago. Victorian goldfields, people were like, nah, it's had its day. There's nothing there. And now look at it. It is happening. So let's go into some of the areas. And I know that you've got a strong balance sheet, so you've got the funds to go ahead with these. So there's lots of different projects. What's the focus for Navarre right now?
Yeah, so the absolute focus, Kerry, is our Stawell Corridor project. So this is our flagship. It's 70 kilometres of strike length south of the Stawell gold mine, essentially, along the prospective corridor. We've been working on this for a number of years, but we're now accelerating towards a maiden resource, and that's really exciting. So this is at what we call resolution load. So this is at the very northern end of our corridor. We've got a diamond drill rig operating there now, and we've been putting out regular updates on this. This is really starting to hang together to look like a Stawell analog, a Stawell lookalike. So,
and is it on the same sort of geological structure? And is that why you're looking in that particular area?
So correct, yeah. So it is. It's in the same setting in the corridor. It sits adjacent to a basalt dome, so very similar to the Magdala basalt dome at Stawell. And similar sort of widths and grades that we're seeing. Now, for context, for viewers, Stawell is a world-class system. So this is a 6 million ounce gold field. Magdala itself, a 4 million ounce deposit, mined down to 1.6 kilometres deep. For 30 years, it was Victoria's largest gold mine until supplanted by Fosterville in 2008. So it's got characteristics that really lend itself to modern mining in terms of continuity, both in terms of geology and in terms of grade. And we see parallels to that at resolution, which is only 20 kilometres away to the south. So directly along strike, essentially. So lots of parallels, similar widths, similar grades.
Well, let's talk about some of those widths and grades, Ian. What have you been seeing?
Yeah, so typically true widths in the order of 2 to 6 metres. So these are underground mining type widths at typical grades of 4 to 6 grams. So in that sort of range. Now, some higher grades as well. Our most recent release, which was nearly 2 weeks ago, at a 5 meters at 10 grams, and I'd draw people's attention to the release itself for details. But again, there's some higher grades within that piece, but consistently economic ore widths and grades potentially from an underground perspective.
So the resolution lode is where the focus is at the moment, but you do have some other pretty interesting areas that you're looking at as well. You've got one rig at resolution drilling away, so I assume more results coming in the near future from there. And,
yes, so correct.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, correct, Kerry. So we've got a rig drilling there. We will be adding another one imminently, so within the next week, essentially, a second diamond drill rig. And we've also got an air core rig currently drilling, again on the Stawell Corridor project, but at another prospect about 20 kilometres to the south, a place called Langi Logan, named after the small town that's there. And it's earlier stage, but it's the same model. So again, it's a basalt dome. Again, it's the same sort of controls. Mineralisation occurs on the edges of these basalt domes. Really excitingly, we did a research project with CSIRO using big data, so some really high-end modelling to try to identify targets in that, and we are now testing those targets with that air core drilling, and the follow-up to that will be then diamond drilling, testing those as well early next year. So. This corridor, I would like people to think about this in terms of, what's the first instalment and then what comes next. And resolution lode and this maiden resource will be the first instalment. We would expect there to be also an exploration target over and above that at resolution, and indeed elsewhere on that dome. But we have 7 of these domes as we move to the south along the corridor. So.
We think, all along the same geological structure, it's just dome after dome after dome.
Correct, yeah, correct. And they've all got a setting that's analogous to Stawell. So we think we would characterise this, and we're public about this, that there's camp scale potential here. There's multi-million ounce potential here. So. We think this district's got a lot to give in that sense. So we're very excited about the Stawell Corridor. And it's really our flagship. Yeah,
I can tell you are, Ian. But a question for me is, why wasn't this picked up? I know that Jeff's been working on it for 10 years, but it's quite extraordinary. No one else had picked that up beforehand, or what's the history of this area?
Yeah, I mean, it's been in different hands, and there have been exploration initiatives, both with large companies and small. I think what's unique here, though, is that now the team here. So Jeff McDermott, our exploration manager, Shane Mealy. These 2 individuals in particular have significant amount of experience with Stawell Gold Mine itself, and exploration efforts around Stawell from previous roles and in previous lives. So they've been able to apply that same model to this stretch of ground to the south, have worked up some outstanding targets, and we're now funded to be able to really take that forward much more aggressively and with a sense of urgency. So from our end, it's the meeting of the excitement within Victoria with a great set of prospects that have been built up. So because you need both, right? You need the capital to be able to advance things at the sort of rate, and we've been able to do that. We've been able to attract that. So that's really useful for us. Well,
Ian, it would be remiss of me not to ask, because you are the new managing director of Navarre Minerals. What attracted? I mean, you've got a lot of experience in Victoria. What attracted you to Navarre Minerals?
Yeah, for sure, Kerry. So I guess just for context there, I mean, I've been operating in Victoria for 13 years now, and the first 12 and a half of that was associated with the Fosterville gold mine. Now, most recently,
Ian, But if you guys don't know what the Fosterville gold mine is, you've been living under a rock. It's massive. And Ian was very instrumental in getting that to where it is today. Sorry to interrupt you, Ian.
No, thanks, Gary. Yeah, so for sure. Look, I was actually working at Fosterville for a number of years under different parent companies. I was the general manager of the site for 7 years, from 2010 through to 2017, and then from that point, I was the vice president of Australian operations for Kirkland Lake Gold. So I had responsibility for Fosterville and an advanced exploration project in the Northern Territory. So I've had a long association with it. From my end, what that really does is gives me confidence, and it gives I think our stakeholders confidence that we've got the inherent knowledge within the organisation to be able to advance these projects in Victoria. So there's relationships with government, with regulators, with key stakeholders to be able to have confidence to move these projects forward. But if we go back to what attracted me to Navarre in the first place, I mean I've known Jeff for plus 10 years. So I've known of Navarre, Kirkland Lake Gold, and its predecessor companies were invested in Navarre. So had a stake. So I've been the primary contact in that sense. So more than aware of where Navarre were going. When my role changed with KL, and I've stepped off the vice president role into a consulting support role, looking at opportunities. Navarre really was a highlight for me in terms of, you have this wonderful set of relatively early stage assets with something that's really starting to emerge in Stawell, in an environment where people want to hear the story, right? It's a receptive audience to Victorian gold, and I was really excited to take on the opportunity. So it's been fantastic in that sense.
Well, since you've come on board as well, you've increased the team. You've got some very interesting new hires, and I just want to bring up Harry Horvath, who, goodness me, he's a veteran geo with like 30 years plus, I think, experience in the area. I think, is that right? I mean, Harry understands these structures in this area.
Yeah, so Harry's got specific experience on some of the projects that we're dealing with, both here in the Stawell Corridor and in the Stavely Arc, just to our west. So fantastic addition to the team. So he started this week, and obviously, given that wealth of experience, has hit the ground running. I would also highlight the previous employee that we brought on. So Sarah Cochran has joined us from Ballarat. So she's really a Central Victorian specialist, and a great set of skills, and is really driving our resolution drilling program and pulling that apart and doing some great things. So those in combination with Shane Mealy, our exploration manager, who's got a great set of experience again in Victoria, we're really well placed to be able to bring all this forward. And I think what is an exploration company but the collection of its resources, including its people, right? So
that's what I always tell our listeners, our viewers. I say, listen, guys, you've always got to look. You've got to look at the team, got to look at the management, and what we've just told you about today is Ian and Jeff. They're bringing together people that really understand these structures. Now, Ian, we've spoken about Stawell. Yep. Let's have a look further out, because it's not just one focus for Navarre at the moment. There are a number of targets. Let's just go through those before we run out of time.
Yeah, for sure. So there's three other gold projects that I'd flag, and really in order of how advanced they are. So Tandara is our project to the north of Bendigo. If you're looking for where's the next Bendigo? Where's the next Fosterville? The most advanced answer to that in the region is to the north of Bendigo undercover, and it's the combined Tandara and Four Eagles projects. Now, Catalyst Metals are our joint venture partner here, and they hold 51% of Tandara and 50% of Four Eagles, and we hold 49% of Tandara. We're not involved with Four Eagles. But in combination, the footprint of this system is Bendigo scale, it's Fosterville scale, and the mineralisation is similar to a Bendigo style mineralisation. So there's been a number of programs and a lot of work done over the last few years. It is advancing. We put out a release, Catalyst and Metals and ourselves put out a release early this week with some updates there on some diamond drilling and again, some high grades. This system, it is a different system than a Stawell, where the grades are and the continuity is perhaps more predictable. But through this area, there's the potential for some really significantly high grades, and if we could develop this with initially an open pit. And then stepping into an underground mine, we think that's the path to commercialisation here. But a lot of work needs to happen before that point. But we're really excited about the exposure we have to that system.
So you mentioned that it's a joint venture with Catalyst Metals.
Correct.
That you have a 49%.
Correct.
Catalyst has 51. Does that mean that Catalyst are managing? I mean, what do you guys have to do, or are you free to carry? How does the arrangement work?
No, it's a contributing interest. So we contribute our 49%. They're the manager and operator and a fantastic partner. We're actively involved. We obviously have JV meetings and review and approve programs, but we're also engaging on a more casual level than that as well, because I think we've got some mutually complementary skill sets. And really, it's all about how do we create value for our respective shareholders. So how do we move this thing forward? So I think it's an exciting one for us. It's got some significant scale potential.
Yeah, and I think the release mentioned some grades that you got up at that area. Can you just mention at Tandara? I think it was the Tomorrow prospect from memory. Yeah,
correct. There was a result there were 4 diamond holes drilled, and the highlight result was a metre at 82 grams, or in that order. So it is. It's certainly capable of hosting some high grades. That's not surprising given its affinity to Bendigo style mineralisation. But it's exciting stuff. I think there's a lot more to be found here.
Well, that puts a smile on your dial. 82 grams per tonne.
For sure.
Now, you mentioned 3. Let's get on to the next 2.
So the next 2 are St Arnaud, which is to the northeast of Stawell. So this is a historic goldfield, a little under 500,000 ounces of historic production. What we did a number of years ago, Jeff and the team did a number of years ago, was to essentially peg the enveloping exploration licence and show that this mineralisation continues undercover to the north, so under the Murray Basin cover. Now, the really exciting development for us here is that the goldfield itself became available to be pegged. We did that, and we've been awarded priority status on that by the government, by the department, and that will come to us, we expect, in the next month to 6 weeks or thereabouts. So that really consolidates the field for us, so we can do this then on an integrated basis, both the historic goldfield, where there's walk-up drill targets under the previous operations, but also the extensions to the north undercover as well. And we plan to commence air core drilling this quarter, and again that'll be followed by diamond drilling early next year. So we think there's a lot to be advanced here with St Arnaud. It's probably underappreciated in our portfolio.
Okay.
I think there's lots of focus, rightly so, on the Stawell Corridor and Tandara, but we think there's a lot of leverage to be had by with St Arnaud, and we don't want to be, and we won't be, distracted from our sort of core task of delivering a resource. Thus, the addition of additional resources to be able to advance this as well. But pretty exciting stuff. Now, the fourth project that I'll mention is our most recently acquired one, and that's the Jubilee Project. And this is 25 kilometres from Ballarat.
Oh, okay.
It's an historic gold mine that was completed or ceased mining just before World War One. Really, no modern exploration has occurred on this property. And what attracted us here is some of the unique features to it. It's actually it's an east-west transverse quartz reef. So for your listeners, for your viewers, most of the Central Victorian geology runs north-south. Okay, so and the reefs all run north-south. So Bendigo, Fosterville, but in places, and it's relatively rare, you have these cross-cutting transverse reefs, and it just happens to be that that's a feature of the high-grade zone at Fosterville at depth.
Oh, so Ian, something that you've come across before and you've had experience with. Interesting.
Yeah, correct. Now I wouldn't. I won't be so glib as to say that's a direct Fosterville analogue.
No,
but clearly we're looking for those pieces, and there are some parallels that we would see. So since taking ownership in June, what we've done is to digitise all of the historic information. So great survey plans and great reports. We've been able to bring that into the digital space so we can see that in 3D. We've run some geophysics programs looking for essentially extensions to the structure, but also repeats, so parallels and analogues. We've identified some anomalies, and we'll be commencing aircore drilling this quarter. So again, with a view to stepping to diamond early next year. So again, lots of information flow happening there, and absolutely underappreciated in our portfolio for sure.
Yeah, and you said that it's 25 kilometres from Ballarat. There's
Correct.
been no sort of no work done on this area since World War One.
Correct.
Good heavens! And if you're right, if it's a different sort of structure, no one else decided. Like, I don't know, how do these things go unnoticed? I guess.
I mean, a bit of a hidden jewel, to be fair, but also I think there's ways and means to look for. So Fosterville's been the rejuvenation of interest within the Victorian goldfields. Clearly, an absolute focus has been adjacent to Fosterville and along that strike, and that's highly competitive and highly sought after. But Jeff in particular and the team looked for other examples where you could see that sort of geometry, and it came up in a project generation review, and we were able to secure it. So we think it's got a lot of potential. We also don't think there's necessarily any value currently reflected in our share price. So we think again there's a lot of leverage to success here.
Do you know, I can feel the excitement coming at me at the moment, Ian, and there are a lot of things. Do you think the market has understood the story? Because of course you've got, I guess, four targets. Jeff, I guess, has been working very thoroughly. In other words, and the analogy I use is he's laid a very strong foundation, and now you can build the house. Do you think the market has understood that?
Look, I think you probably can't tell the story often enough to be completely honest, and that's what we're trying to do, Kerry. So it really is about bringing our shareholders along, telling the story, bringing new people onto the register, and getting them interested in the story. So We've been doing, last week we did a virtual roadshow. So we did 11 investor meetings across the week. The technology is fantastic. Zoom, we're all becoming experts at Zoom, and it all works. And it's about really, getting people to know and understand that story. And that's certainly what, what specifically, I was brought on board to assist with as well, Kerry, and to drive by Jeff and by the board is to get out and tell the story. So,
I think you've told it very well this morning, Ian. And, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, all I'll say to you is, it's all about management. It's all about the team. For me, I'm a gold nerd. It's about the commodity as well, the area they've got. I think it's a really interesting story. Ian, you've got a massive amount of news coming out. I'm sure we will be speaking again in the not too distant future with
absolutely
new announcements. Good luck with all this drilling going on. Great team. Thanks for joining us today on Small Caps.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Kerry.